Hello. I'd like to welcome Charlotte. She has worked on the Mercutio monologue from Romeo and Juliet, as well as doing a bit of costume and character study.
Um, all right, so before I would do my monologue, I did some character analysis. So the first thing I did was I created a color palette for Mercutio. As you can see, most of it is like dark blues, greens. They're all like muted colors because Mercutio was really fun and outgoing, so I wanted more like fun colors. But because of the time period and the feeling of the show, I thought that they should be a little bit more muted and not very like as bright. Most of it is like blues and greens and it's like greenish gray. And that's because if I was putting on Romeo and Juliet, I would have Romeo's family be all kind of like muted blues and greens like this. And Mercutio is involved with Romeo's family, but since he isn't related, I added this, related to them, he's just Romeo's friend. I added this like muted reddish brown color right here to just kind of give him a pop of color since he is really fun and stuff, and just to differentiate himself just a tiny bit from the family. So for the costume, Mercutio is traditionally played by a male, but I decided since I was reading the role to design it as a woman. So I chose for the costume this kind of Renaissance dress with like the puffy sleeves and the corset and the greens. But I really liked this picture, but I would change this black panel in the front of the skirt to the kind of muted red color to again give her that pop of color. And then for the hair, I have this low bun with kind of like a headband type thing, and then a few pieces out the front to kind of like frame the face. Mercutio is very, he does a lot of action, and again is very like outgoing and silly, and I just don't see that character as having a lot of hair like down and flowing. But this hairstyle is still pretty like very to the period for what a woman would wear without being too like flowy things. Then this is a collection of images that I think represent Mercutio or remind me of Mercutio. Just a little collage of like character inspiration. And I stuck with mostly the color palette, but this is a lot more blacks and whites. Some words that I think describe Mercutio are charismatic, playful, light, interesting, loyal, friend, and nonchalant. Now I'm going to perform Mercutio's monologue from Act 1, Scene 4. Sorry. Okay. Oh, then I see Queen Map happen with you. She's the fairy's midwife, and she comes in a shape no bigger than an agate stone on the forefinger of an alderman, drawn with a team of little atomies over men's noses as they lie asleep. Her wagon smokes made of long spinners' legs, the cover of the wings of grasshoppers, her traces of the smallest spider web, her collars of the moonshine's watery beams, her whip of cricket's bone lash of film, her wagoner a gray-coated gnat, not half as big as a round little worm from the lazy finger of a maid. Her chariot is an empty hazelnut, made by the joiner squirrel or old grub. Time out and mind the fairies' coachmakers. And in this state she gallops night by night through lovers' brains and makes them dream of love. This is she. Thank you.
All right. I'd like to welcome Amelia. She has worked on a modernization of the Romeo and Juliet story through quarantine.
Everyone in the city of Veranopolis knew that the Waltons and the Dracocks were very into their instant drama. In fact, ever since quarantine started, they had constant battles on the others' pictures, sometimes so bad that they were blocked for a day to chill out. After the servants saw how much their masters hated one another, but they always thought that their side was always right. The only people that it didn't reach out were their teenage kids, Romeo and Juliet, who had no idea that their parents were battling. They had known that their parents hated each other, but quarantine had really gone to their heads, so now they were all crazy. Soon, everyone had enough of their squabbling, and Prince Lorenzo, both the ruler of Verona and the same person that made Instadrama, decided that he had enough. He proposed that both of the families went to a party and decided to meet up. Naturally, they were concerned about their health, but Prince Lorenzo took care of other guys and they met up. There, Juliet and Romeo met and decided to dance 6 feet apart. It was awkward at first, but then they started to talk a lot and fall in love. They never mentioned anything about them being the son and daughter of their parents' worst enemies. Everybody knew that they were in love with each other by the end of the ball, to Houston's, Julieta's fiance's shock. He told this to Julieta's parents, and they forbid her to ever see him again. They didn't think that she would communicate with him online. They constantly texted and FaceTime each other without getting caught. They wanted to meet one day and snuck out of both of their houses. But it turned out when Romeo bought Julieta a box of chocolates, it had coronavirus on it and they both died. When they died, the parents hosted their deaths several times, so they got even more popularity from their children's death. The end.
I'd like to welcome Julia, as she has worked on the Juliet monologue in Romeo and Juliet.
Thou knowest the mask of night is on my face, else would a maiden blush bepaint my cheek. For that which thou hast heard me speak tonight, fain would I dwell inform, fain deny what I have spoke, but farewell compliment. Dost thou love me? I know thou wilt say aye, and I will take thy word. Yet, if thou swearest, thou mayest prove false at lovers' perjuries. Then say, Jove laughs, gentle Romeo. If thou dost love, pronounce it faithfully. Or if thou thinkest I am too quickly won, I'll frown and be preserved and say thee nay. So thou wilt woo, but else not for the world.
I'd like to welcome Sky and Mira. They worked on a street scene and also on the balcony scene, a set and costume design for Romeo and Juliet.
For our project, we did a set design for 2 of the scenes, and we also did a character and costume design for Romeo and Juliet.
For the set designs, we did the street scene where there's a fight and the balcony scene where Romeo and then Juliet have their monologues.
For Romeo's costume, we thought we would like something like the picture on the left. The green vest and the white shirt with the puffy sleeves seemed like something he would wear. The pants were a little too baggy and the wrong material though. For the boots, we liked the fold over top and that they were leather. We have 2 hats on the right. The top one is a little more of his everyday hat that he might wear when he was going around in the town square. The bottom one is more of a fancy royal hat that he might wear to the ball.
For Juliet's costume, we wanted something like a dress that was really flowy, like the picture on the left. This dress we really like because of the flowy sleeves and just like the cut. However, we think that she would probably wear some more color like this blue here. We really both like the detail in the picture in the middle, but to coordinate with the blue color, we think it would probably be a brighter silver or gold instead of like a more brownish lower tone.
The street scene. For the street scene, we went a little more modern. There are some houses in the background and the church where Friar Lawrence lives. In the front, there is Tybalt and Romeo fighting and a fountain. We had a painter and a fruit cart because we thought since it was a town square, there would be vendors and people selling things along the street.
For the balcony scene, Juliet is at the Capulet's house looking out onto the orchard, and this is where she'll say her monologue. Romeo is hiding behind a tree, listening to Juliet after just jumping the wall into the orchard. He will say his monologue here before revealing himself to Juliet. You can't really see it in the previous picture, so as a side note, the balcony seems to be like a starry night sky with a full moon. We want this because we think it will portray like a lover's mystical night kind of feeling. Yeah, thanks.
I'd like to welcome Hannah. She worked on the balcony scene in Romeo and Juliet. She has done a set design as well as going through the dialogue of the scene.
But soft, what light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. It is my lady, oh, it is my love. Oh, that she knew she were. Ah, me, she speaks. Oh, speak again, bright angel. Oh, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? Deny thy father and refuse thy name. Or, if thou wilt not, be but sworn my love, and I'll no longer be a Capulet. Shall I hear more, or speak at this? 'Tis but thy name that is my enemy. Thou art thyself, though not a Montague. Oh, be some other name. What's in a name? That which we call a rose, by any other name, would smell as sweet. So Romeo would, were he not called Romeo. Romeo, doff thy name, and for that name, which is no part of thee, take all myself. I take thee at thy word. Call me but love, and henceforth I never will be Romeo. Art thou not a Montague? How camest thou hither, tell me, and wherefore? With love's light wings did I overperch these walls. If any of my kinsmen find thee here, they will murder thee. I have night's cloak to hide me from their eyes, and but thou love me, let them find me here. My life were better and ended by their hate, than death prorogued, wanting of thy love. Dost thou love me, O gentle Romeo? If thou dost love, pronounce it faithfully. Lady, by yonder blessed moon I vow. Oh, swear not by the moon. What shall I swear by? Do not swear at all. Or if thou wilt, Madam, anon, good nurse. 3 good words, Romeo, and good night indeed. If that thy bent of love he honorable, thy purpose marriage, send me word tomorrow, and all my fortunes at thy foot I'll lay, and follow thee, my lord, throughout the world. Madam, by and by I come. Tomorrow I will send. So thrive my soul. 1,000 times good night. Love goes towards love as schoolboys toward their looks from their books, but love from love towards school with heavy looks. Thank you.
All right, so I'd like to welcome Mara. She has worked on the Lady Capulet monologue from Romeo and Juliet.
Sorry, I was trying to get the Juliet, what she said in my head. What say you? Can you love the gentleman? This night you shall behold him at our grand feast. Read o'er the volume of young Paris' face, and find delight with where beauty's pen. Examine every married lineament, and see how one another leads content. And what obscured in this fair volume lies, find written in the margin of his eyes. The precious look of love, this unbound lover, to beautify him only lacks a cover. The fish live in the sea with much pride, for fair with the fair within to hide. That book in many eyes doth share the glory, the gold clasps locked in the golden story. So shall you share that he doth possesses by having him, and by making yourself know the less.
I'd like to welcome Isabella and Sarah. They have worked on the fight scene in Romeo and Juliet for set design as well as the dialogue.
So in scene 12, we drew out the set, and we're gonna be reading the dialogues as we are sharing the screen with the set. So Isabella is playing Tybalt and Benvolio, and I play Romeo and Mercutio. So this is our set. We were planning to put more details on the road and in this area and on the road. So we were planning to put like stuff on the road, like wagons and stuff. And then on this side we were planning to put more buildings. So yeah. So we're gonna start.
I pray you, good Mercutio, let's retire. The day is hot, the capels are abroad, and if we meet, we shall not escape a brawl. By my head, here come the Capulets.
By my heel, I care not.
Gentlemen, good evening. A word with one of you?
And but one word with one of us. Couple it with something, make it a word and a blow.
You shall find me apt enough to that, sir. Mercutio, thou consortest with Romeo.
Consort? What dost that make us, minstrels?
Well, peace be with you, sir. Here comes my man. Romeo, the love I bear thee can afford no better term than this. Thou art a villain.
Tybalt, the reason that I have to love thee doth much excuse such a greeting. Villain am I none.
Boy, this shall not excuse the injuries thou hast done to me.
I do protest, I never injured thee. And so, good Capulet, which name I tender as dearly as mine own, be satisfied. O calm, dishonorable, vile submission, Tybalt, you rat catcher, will you walk?
What wouldst thou have with me?
Good king of cats, nothing but one of your 9 lives.
I am for you.
Gentle Mercutio. Tybalt, Mercutio, the prince expressly hath forbid this. Hold, Tybalt, good Mercutio.
Art thou hurt?
Aye, scratch, scratch. Marry, 'tis enough. Courage, man, the hurt cannot be much. 'Twill serve. Ask for me tomorrow, and you shall find me a grave man. A plague o' both your houses. A plague o' both your houses.
Here comes Tybalt.
Alive in triumph, and Mercutio slain. Tybalt, Mercutio's soul, is but a little way above our heads, staying for thine to keep him company. Either thou, or I, or both must go with him.
Thou wretched boy, shout with him hence. Romeo, away, begone! The prince will doom thee to death. Hence, begone, away!
Oh, I am fortune's fool. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Thanks, guys.
You should definitely have an all caps.